is now open. So please look at the information of the symposium on the page of the ISPRS and send your papers until April 15. So I don't want to be long, and just want to give the floor to Professor Murali Krishna, who will now introduce the speakers, and I think it's time to begin this interesting webinar.
Thank you, Dr. Lauren Polidori, the President of the ISPRS Commission 3 on Remote Sensing. It's great. I welcome all the people who are attending this webinar, and it is my privilege to address this group as a chairman of the working group 3x9 on geospatial environment and health analytics. And I welcome both the eminent speakers, Dr. Nitin K. Tripathi and Dr. Fanindra, for this day's morning, evening, night session related to the geospatial environment and health analytics. We have two speakers, and the first speaker is Dr. Nitin K. Tripathi, who is a professor in remote sensing and geographic information systems at the Asian Institute of Technology, Bangkok, Thailand. And he has got more than 35 years of experience in all aspects of remote sensing. I'm associated with Dr. Nitin Tripathi in many of the programs related to the health GIS for disaster management, etc., in different parts of the world with more focus in Asian countries. So it's a great pleasure to have Dr. Nitin Tripathi to address the webinar on the specific theme of the smart health care. The specific objective of the smart healthcare, which he is going to explain in greater detail, as I understand, is an extensive and integrated ecosystem that supports the improvements, that provides greater support to the consumer and provide better outcomes and access to healthcare services. Healthcare systems can increase the productivity and efficiency and provide better care to more people under the smart healthcare system, in which the geospatial technology, the remote sensing data form a greatest contributors, apart from the other data you get from the field as well as IoT sensors. So I request Dr. Nitin Tripathi to kindly give his talk. Dr. Tripathi.
Thank you, Professor Murali Krishna. Thank you, Dr. Lauren. I'm very, very happy to be part of this ISPRS webinar. And I'm thankful that you have selected a topic of smart healthcare for me. I have been working in GIS and health for a long time, since 2005. And together with Professor Krishna, under his guidance, we have conducted around 8 international conferences in different parts of Asia. And I have seen that there is all the Ministry of Public Health and other organizations related to health here, NGOs, they are using GIS for health in a big way. Today, I'm going to share some of my thoughts and work that I have done for smart healthcare. So I'm going to share my screen now. So here I'm going to talk about smart healthcare. Right now I'm located in Asian Institute of Technology since year 2000. Before that, I was in IIT Kanpur, Indian Institute of Technology, Kanpur, and I was working there in remote sensing and GIS group. And in year 2000, I had moved here to Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand. So today I'm going to tell about disease status in the world, and I will be very brief because time is less. And healthcare status, need of the healthcare, smart healthcare system, service and business opportunities, because many people are looking at only service, but I think to our student, we must say that if you do this, there are some like entrepreneurial opportunities also existing. So all the human beings, when we talk about their health, three main factors are contributing towards their health. One thing is climate, environment, and socioeconomic. So health is not only like eating good food and then taking care of your body, but many things are affecting us, like climate, environment, and socioeconomic. And these are all connected to the geography, like air quality, soil, its quality, food, water, nature, culture, animals, distance from the hospital, distance from the industry, buildings, accident sites, chemicals, healthcare services, demographics, and there are many more layers of GIS which we use for finding out the relationship with the disease cases. So here very much we can say how geography is going to be very important for human health. During the COVID time, we have seen WHO every day. We were watching the WHO dashboard, and we find that WHO uses GIS in a big way. For more than 20 diseases, they collect the data all over the world, and they are having on their data. And we can see for any country what is happening for some disease in timeline. So this is a good source of information geographically in WHO. So this is also provided by our IT, information technology. And this was the scenario on 4th of June 2020 when uh, 382 people have already died that time. And more than 6 million, 6.4 million cases were there. That was in 2020. But 2021 became worse, and I think cases might have multiplied many times. So almost I think more than 50 million cases were there, and many people also lost their life. But all these things were captured very nicely by WHO, and all the data was coming quickly on the screen, and people were aware which country is able to control, which country is still struggling. And even for country wise, like Thailand wise also, we can go up to the like their province level into WHO sites. And Bangkok Post, the newspaper in Thailand, they were also having a dashboard and sharing the information of total number of cases per day, and where we exist in Thailand compared to the world in terms of COVID affected countries, and how the situation is. So when this kind of real information is shared on media by newspaper, by NGOs or international organization like WHO, then it is very helpful for the officers and people to take care of the health issues. So this is about Thailand. All the provinces, how many cases every day it was notified. And then vaccination came, and again, these GIS platform by the government were very helpful. Like what vaccine is available in which province, how many people are getting vaccinated. So GIS has become a routine thing for the people to use it during the COVID time. So we have seen how the technologies, smart system, information technology was adopted during the COVID time, and people have thought that this is the way we have to share the information using GIS. Then in India, a largest vaccination drive was there. We know that 1,400 million people live in India. So this was one of the biggest democracies where COVID vaccines were given free to the people, and they could achieve it in very timely fashion and save the millions of lives. And in Google, we can see where to go and to get the COVID vaccine. So all this information was shared also, like vaccine centers and everything on the Google platform. So people can just click, find out the nearest and set up a time and then go there and take the vaccine. They don't have to wait in the crowd, because crowd was not allowed everywhere. How it works? So there was system by the government, like how to get yourself, like in India, using your identity card, like Aadhaar card, etc. You can book your slot and go there and get the vaccine. Now, when we see the top 10 causes of death, we find that heart disease is one of the most dangerous cause for the death, then stroke, brain stroke, lower respiratory infections. And so there are many diseases which are living with us, and they are very much prevalent. And I think apart from COVID, now this is a time also to take care of the heart disease, which is one of the most dangerous disease, and it is very common even in the people 40 years of age now. Now, then we also see that cancer and communicable viral diseases, they are also contributing a lot. And not only low income countries, but high income countries also, they are creating huge amount of problem and risk. How much in the global healthcare security index, how much each country is contributing on the healthcare? USA is of course on the top, and then we can see China and India, which are the top populated countries, they are not spending that much. So that was this is the data about 2016. But after that, now we see that a lot of interest has come from the government of India. At least I have the data that now they have increased the budget on this spending on the healthcare. In fact, during the COVID time itself, they have spent lot of money for providing the vaccine, providing the free healthcare, oxygen cylinder, concentrators. So, what is the smart healthcare? For smart healthcare, we have to use smart systems like sensors and all the data collection devices which are on internet. And then we should have a smart community who can use the data like smart devices they can use. So the data which is coming from sensors and other means, they can see that. The information generated by them, they can see that. And these sensors all are location enabled, like geographical coordinates are there. So we know these sensors, like say air pollution sensors, water pollution monitoring sensors, and then humidity, weather parameters. All these sensors are providing data. Plus, from other sources like crowdsourcing data is also coming. So, how this data is coming, how the GIS can mash it up and produce information. And now this AI and machine learning has come, so we can create knowledge. And once this knowledge is there, then policymakers can take decisions how to help the people. What is the best way to help the people, and where to start so that maximum people can be covered. So I think GIS with all the Internet of Things, it is coming in a big way to help the communities. What is Internet of Things? I think most of us know. Internet of Things is simply the collection of several entities connected through a network provided by standard combination protocols. And the thing arose, the name thing came because each connected entity is considered as on thing. So it can be sensor, it can be some like a server of the data. And so all these things are on internet. So they are all connected and they are called Internet of Things. And slowly we went into medical Internet of Things like MIoT. Now smartphone, this is the first generation of iPhone, and since then it became very popular because it was a real disruptive innovation, I will say. And not only it was functioning like a phone, but also it was a camera, it was a communication device of all kind of, like say, texting, WhatsApp, and all these things came. Then we can read the information, we can read the newspapers, we can socialize like Facebook and other platforms. Then, of course, entertainment, gaming, and schedule management. But was it all? No. It has much more things to offer, and that is the sensors within it. So then it started tracking our health with the sensors inside. It started giving the data about our health, like what is our blood pressure, how much we walked today, and during the walking, what was the blood pressure peak, and when it dropped and when it went high, and what is the pulse rate. So it started giving these things. So Apple Watch came, and then it supplemented the information to Apple iPhone, and then Android devices also followed the suit. So a lot of Android phone and watches, they are a very smart system, and they are helping for healthcare. Now, smart sensors in the phone, we can see that they have sensors in such a tiny device like compass, orientation sensor, accelerometer, wireless environment, camera, magnetic sensors, light sensors, voice and noise sensors, GPS. So even the voice and noise is very important, because we should not live more than 80 decibel for long time. Even 80 decibel is not allowed more than 8 hours. And if we are living in, say, 100 decibel or 110 decibel just for, like, say, an hour or 2 hour, then there are chances of deafness. So we have to be very careful about our health, and how to know about that we are crossing the limit. These are the sensors which we have to make use of. Now, there are more than 20 sensors actually, which are there in the mobile phones, smartphones nowadays, and they are very much useful for helping to create the healthcare systems. And today I'm going to just give a brief about it, like what kind of healthcare system can be created from these sensors. So now you might have seen the young people walking with all the gadgets on their body, like what is the speed, and they are monitoring their muscle movement, temperature, hydration, glucose, blood oxygen, EMG signals, motions of the feet, and whether they are stable in walking and running or not stable. And if they are not stable, and if they don't take care, then what is the chances of fall in the senior people? Wrist, pulse, blood pressure. Then ECG now is available in the watches, and then EEG. So there are so many type of sensors which are taking care of our health now, and they are all connected by mobile phone and watches. And these are, the data can be very very useful to help the doctor to understand how our body is performing. Now we can see in the wearable gears, a lot of companies have come out with many solutions like Fitbit, Misfit, glucose meter, Apple watches, Sun, Google glasses, and all these systems are connected to mobile by Bluetooth, wireless LAN, and USB. So we can transfer the data to the mobile phone online, and we can take care of our glucose level, our activities, calories gained, calories burned, weight, medication, nutrition. All these patient data can be collected, and then all these things can be shared on the computers or iPad or iPhones or any smartphones. Now, sensors and smartphone. So one of my student, she did PhD, Priyanka Kakaria, and then we had a doctor from Thammasat University, heart doctor, Pirapong, and we did the system development that time and tested it on our students to see that parameters are coming all right or not. We calibrated all our systems so that to give maximum accuracy. So for the old people, now this is the biggest issue. Like the population, elderly population is increasing, and there is a need to keep a track of their movement, how they are performing, and to provide help in the case of necessity. So we can put all the sensors and plus GPS with them, and we know we can track them where they are. Is their blood pressure okay or not, and how their body is performing. If they are having any health issues, immediately the alert and source can come to the our mobile phones or computers. So all these technologies are very helpful to provide a good monitoring of the heart and elderly people, and also give the alarm to the people like doctors and the family members, and then they can be taken care. So we can see the photograph about different kind of sensors and devices which are available in the market, and we can take them and assemble them in our system. So these are the sensors that we have used, like ECG sensor, blood oxygen, temperature sensors, and blood pressure, pulse rate monitor, and we connected them with Arduino boards. And then these Arduino boards will transmit the signal to the mobile, and from the mobile it will go to the server. Or sometimes we can put a SIM in the Arduino board, and then we can program it when the data can be pushed to the server. So sensors, and from the sensor signals are coming to the servers, and then we have the research for domain for alarming system. So we have to develop some kind of alert and alarming system, and then the data will be heartbeat, blood pressure, calories, distance covered, uh, like distance from the hospital and other places, and then these data, and we can develop interface with the doctor through his mobile, through doctor tab and doctor's computer. So he can see the performance of the people uh, based on the all these parameters. And if he feels that something is bad, so our research has also done like how to provide alert to the doctors and to the patient. So all these sensors were connected to the Bluetooth Arduino board, and then data was pushed to the wireless LAN, and then it goes to the server, and the whole world, including the doctor, will see the information and take the suitable decisions. This is the dashboard, like user management, like registration will be done by the user, and then from the wearable devices, data will start coming onto that one, and then all the heart rate, blood oxygen, body temperature, blood pressure, everything will be there, and with the time and everything, and one can make the use of it. And then graphs can be developed for, like, say, all the parameters, blood oxygen, heart rate, and then body temperature, blood pressure, etc. And then ECG. Now ECG has come, which has made the system much stronger, and we can find out distance between the two R peaks and find out whether they are normal or not, or what is the distance between Q peaks, etc. And then try to give alerts. Threshold ECG peaks. So now we can see here the location of the peaks here, R wave, Q wave, and S wave, and then find out if there is any anomaly. If there is anomaly, then there is some issue, like some disease may be coming up, or there is a region to give alerts. Now wearable technology market. Now we can see the market is growing very, very fast of durable technology all over the world. US, Europe, Australia, China, Taiwan, and Russia, they are leading. India was emerging that time. But I think this is the data about 2018. But I think after COVID, there is a boost in India also, and it is coming much in a much bigger way. But I think a larger part of the world also needs to use these technologies, so that traveling to the hospital from a remote place is can be avoided. Even the when you go to the hospital, there are huge number of patients all around, and that can be lowered by going through the small, these kind of, say, smart systems. Like I came out. So, and 5 top wearable devices solutions are coming from mostly Europe and US, and they are having lot of demands. These are the smart healthcare startups and industries which have come up now. iHealth, Moves, and Omron, etc. We are buying their equipments, and Garmin, Fitbug. Now, we have also done one study, one research on a smart healthcare system. Like when the patient is there and his family want to take him to the hospital, so he can just use the mobile phone, smartphone, and register, and then give all the detail of the patient while he's taking the patient to the hospital. Because nobody plans to go to the hospital in the emergency. When emergency comes, then suddenly one has to rush, and then lot of time is wasted in registration, making some like say papers, etc., before the actual treatment begins. But right, these things can be done by smartphone registration, and when one enters the hospital, then one eye beacon can be put at different places, and that can be connected to the app, and it can give information to the people that this room for this thing is on your left, right, or where is the location. And then people don't have to ask anybody, and without wasting time they will go to the right place. And the treatment, everything will be in digital, like medication and everything, prescription, and it will be recorded. And when they go to the doctor next time, all their records are already existing. So the whole Miss thesis was on how to automate the process and lower the dependence of on the humans, so that a very good trustworthy system can be there, and people can get save lot of time, which is very much important in the hospitals. Then I will give some quick example about Apollo hospital chain in India. They have very good telemedicine because they have patients from not only India, different parts, but even Africa, Middle East, etc., and Bangladesh. So they are providing treatment through online methods. And this has become very common. It is called Digital Med Mantra. Then Thailand, Samiti Veg Hospital, they have very good virtual hospital, and people first small diseases they just can register here, and they can consult the doctor online, and they don't have to go to the hospital. And Bamrung Road Hospital, which is a number one accredited means a private hospital in Thailand. It has branches in Mongolia and many other countries. They have a Dr. Raksha, their telemedicine setup, and it is very popular, and many people are getting benefit. So they can avoid the very infamous traffic jams of Thailand, and then from their home itself, they can get advice. And then if there is a urgency, then ambulance can go and bring them to the hospital. Then medicine online. This has become very popular all over the world, especially in India, I've seen. And these online medicine providers, even for a small amount, they can send the medicine to the home any time of the day and night. 24/7 they are available, and they are offering discounts. So this medicine also you don't have to go and buy in the shop, medicine shop, drug stores. They can come to your home directly. And sometimes, suppose you want to buy medicine for 2 months, in one shop it may not be available. So you have to go to different shops and buy. But now here you can just place the order, and they will procure the medicine and bring it to you. And there are many other care centers, like for elderly care center and nursing homes. They can create a private like say uh, ICU kind of a thing in the home itself, so that you don't have to spend too much of money in the hospital. And the nurses, specialized nurses, will be there throughout. So elderly care, home patient, dementia care, nursing service, everything can be generated in the house itself, so that dependence of going to the hospital is lowered. This was the scenario of COVID. If we remember, huge number of people, nurses and doctors used to go to different area to collect samples, and often they met very hostile environment. People were not giving samples out of fear that they will declare them like COVID positive, and then they have to go for a like isolation. So they were hiding, and that was increasing the cases. So many times police, etc., use force and send the thing. But I think if smart systems are there and people are aware, they will share their data directly. Whatever test data is there, they can share at least every day by toolkits that what is the situation, whether they are COVID positive or they have become negative. In Thailand, everybody cooperated, and even in the temples around, just after COVID, people were checked. Even military was participating to check the temperature of all the people on the road, and very good checking system was there. India had a Arogya Setu app to track the COVID positive people, so that every time tracking of the patient is there, and if they need help, it can be provided. Plus, we can issue the alert that in this area, chances of getting COVID is high or something like that. So, final remarks about this short presentation is that a smart healthcare system should be developed, which is mobile based, very handy. Telemedicine and remote care patient system should be made operational for the common people, for the villages, for the mountain areas. Health Hour generation is to be created. So, lot of training programs are needed, how to use these devices and how to do the telemedicines, so that health aware generation is there and they take care of their body and health, their obesity and everything. So, and these systems, if we have developed properly, they can go for diagnostic support system. So, I'm just on time, but I will just tell that another study that I did, and I have guided few PhDs and some masters in the smart healthcare. So another thing we just finished is remote heart patient monitoring and diagnostic support system. So we can even support the doctors in telling that what is happening to the patient, like when to give the alert, etc. So we have developed the complete database model for how to collect data and in the server, and then what are the sensors we are using, what data collection we do, what data transmission is needed to be done, then how the software can analyze all this data and then give the advice to the give the alert to the mobile for the concerned people. These are the devices that we used in the second second thesis. So glucometer sensor for diabetes was also there. SpO2 blood oxygen was also considered. Then e-health sensor shield was there, so which can directly send the data to the server. And for early warning score, we studied, and we also took the advice from surgeons, means heart specialist, about alerts. At what level, what is the level of alert we can give? So 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, both side we can see it is there. And when the person is going to get like 5 or 6, then he is considered to be under medium alert. And then ECG detailed data analysis has been done in this study. We have developed a better dashboard. So this is it. So I will stop here, Professor Krishna.
Thank you, Dr. Nitin. It is amazing to see how that new technologies are being integrated, and EIT under your direction has taken a great role. We had a very good presentation on covering disease status, what is a healthcare, smart healthcare, and including certain points for the younger generation who has got aptitude for skill development and entrepreneurship and business opportunities, as rightly stated by Dr. Nitin. And one of the most important issues is population health management. It is slightly above the public health management system, which has been practiced for the last few decades. And the system that has been presented by Dr. Nitin Tripathi integrates the data from the geospatial tools, ground tools, IoT, and effectively becomes a very good system, could become a system for population health management. I think in this process, he also mentioned about the Global Healthcare Security Index is one of the very important, significant parameters for proper interventions by the governing authorities. And the mention about the smart healthcare to be developed, the need to develop, and also early warning score as a part of his remote health heart monitoring systems, etc., are a good mix of the several tools, several technologies, several devices, and the aptitude for the people to integrate these things. And I only say the younger generation, the research community sitting here, should integrate all these things. And today is the technology of geospatial data analytics, then geospatial artificial intelligence, the chat GPT, generative AI, they're all getting open under the OpenAI system. They are getting integrated. So there are no borders between the technologies. The most important thing is there is no border between technology. So it is a very blurred borders, if it are there is borders. And I appeal to all the participants here to think about these issues. And I also suggest them, if they know anyone who is working on these areas, please email me. We'll bring them into the focus. And our objective of the ISPRS Working Group 3/9 is to disseminate information and promote research in the area of environment and health with remote sensing geospatial technology as the prime components, and integrate all other technologies in a more cohesive, objective manner. Thank you, Dr. Nitin Tripathi, for his wonderful presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you for listening me. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a second speaker, my dear friends. It is Dr. Fanindra. He is a faculty professor of civil engineering in the Indian Institute of Technology, Hyderabad, and he is a PhD from the New Mexico State University, and his main focus is on related to environmental issues concerned with the groundwater, agriculture water, and with a focus on remote sensing, GIS applications, hydrogeological characterization, and then the soil, water, crop interactions, one of the very significant information that are needed for a proper agricultural management, and also agricultural water management, because water is very scarce, and how do you manage the agricultural water is one of the important issues. These are the areas of specialization, expertise of Dr. Fanindra. And for today, the webinar, he'll be speaking on the geostatistical analysis in GIS for environmental monitoring. See, specifically, the geostatistics is one sort of a statistics, one we use for analysis and also predict the values associated with the spatio-temporal phenomena. That is one of the important components. And it incorporates also the spatial as well as the temporal coordinates of the data within the analysis. Why it is important? Because by predicting the spatial correlations with the minimum standard deviation or variance, we can get regional variables as a fundamental quantity, and the geostatics has been proven to be among the most effective tools for assessing the spatial patterns and also variation of the soil characteristics. These are the two important characteristics that are important to add value to the geospatial technology. And here we have the Professor Fanindra to address about that aspect of geospatial technology. They are not geospatial, geostatistical analysis in GIS for environmental monitoring. Dr. Fanindra, please.
Thank you, Dr. Murali Krishnan, sir, actually, for the opportunity to share my thoughts in such a very nice platform of ISPRS Working Group. Also, happy to see Dr. Lauren, Dr. Nitin, and others actually. And to start with my presentation, actually, okay. So hopefully you can see the presentation. my presentation is more goes in a theoretical sense, point number one, and also at a more at a entry level, uh, because I use the remote sensing and GIS as a tool, but my core application is more into water resources. So again, welcome to the presentation where I talk about the geostatistical analysis in GIS. If you see the previous presentation, the very first slide where Professor Tripathi is actually talking about this, the COVID disease dispersion among the countries, or somewhere at the end, he's talking about actually the how this uh, technical way of actually representing, or actually how this technology is being adopted by the different countries. These choropleth maps, if you observe, they show the variation in the properties. I mean, actually, so for example, the how this continuous surface has been developed from the discrete observations is based on the geostatistical analysis. I will touch upon some fundamental understanding of this uh, geostatistical analysis. So probably geostatistics is actually the combination of geo and statistics, where actually you take the earth features or actually earth representative features of the latitudes and longitudes or the positionals, and then apply the principles of the statistics so that actually you get a meaningful application or a meaningful solution strategy. For example, geostatistics is a part of the statistics, as Professor Jasnam Murali Krishna has mentioned, mainly deals with the spatial or spatiotemporal data sets, where it can offer wide range of techniques, a wide range of actually methodologies like interpolation, integration, differentiation, and so on. And we particularly use the data on hydrologic, geological, and meteorological parameters, which are actually have some spatial connectivity or the spatial variation in a geographical domain. So the whole objective is actually they use the data at the points at the random locations or actually the observed locations, and then try to predict the uh, values at an unknown location, so develop the continuous surface. So these geostatistical techniques are kind of a thing. I should say these are the backbone in developing the continuous surfaces or the choropleth maps in most of the GIS scenarios or GIS applications from the data that is being utilized. So that broadly, these geostatistical methods can be grouped into two categories. One is deterministic models, which uses the mathematical functions to calculate the values at the unknown locations. Like they can use the degree of similarity, like inverse distance weight method, or degree of smoothness, where like radial basis functions methods. These can also be like a probabilistic methods, which not only uses the mathematical representation of the calculating the values at unknown, but also have some statistical component associated to get the uncertainty in the predictions. For example, the Kriging algorithms. So to start with, the inverse distance weight method is one of the popular deterministic approach to develop actually the continuous surface, which mainly considers actually the using the weight to the distance in an inverse form. In the sense, actually, the one which is actually closer to the known location will be given the more weights, or the one which is actually far away from that one, which is actually one by highest distance, will be given a low weight in estimating or in predicting the values at the unknown locations. So the it's an exact interpolator. That means actually the values will be bound within the minimum and maximum of the data constrained by this one. So for example, if you can see here, actually, you have the data at various known locations marked by the red dots, and you're supposed to identify or estimate the data at some unknown location. So it can use actually the distance as an inverse of zeroth order, first order, or second order, depending on the nature of the application that has been sensed, and then it defines some search radius within which actually I can actually ascertain the weights to the known locations to get the value at the unknown location. So for example, in a simple sense, presuming most of the audience are actually the students, I just want to also brief with a simple example. If I want to predict the data at the unknown location, given I have 3 data points A, B, C, which are respectively at 4 units and 3 units and 2 units from the unknown location. So it first calculates the weights to be given to each data points, which is 1 over D square, which is point. So that means 0.625 and 0.111 and 0.25, because the one which is actually the closer to this unknown location will be given almost 25% of the weight. The one which is actually far away, which is 4 units, will given much lower weight, which is 0.625 units. So once you have the weights, you calculate the weights multiplied with the values, and then you actually normalize with the total weights to get the value at the unknown location. So given the values at these values, so probably you can sense actually the unknown location will always be within bounded by the min-max range of the known data sets. So this is actually the tool that uses the inverse distance weight in GIS, actually where you are specifying the input and specifying the value fields, and then what should be the output size. And that's so you can also perform the search radius depending on the neighborhood statistics of the points or the radians or the distance to provide. So the background is what was discussed, and this is the tool in GIS which helps to perform the interpolation. Similarly, based on the smoothness criteria, you can also use the RBF, radial basis function, which mainly provides a smooth surface, generally used for the variables which generally have a smooth variation like elevation or precipitation data sets. Mainly, it's a similar thing, assigns the weights based on the second norm of the distance to get the unknown location. So for example, if I need to estimate the data, so for the known locations, it defines actually an RBF for each data point and then accumulates to get actually the data corresponds to the entire smoothness surface to know the values at the unknown locations. So the major difference between the two methods, inverse distance weight and RBF, is actually that see, for example, here, if you take an IDW at an unknown location, it will always try to be within the min and max region. But radial basis function, if you see here, it's a smooth interpolator. So what could it happen? It can even go to a value which is even lower than the minimum value. So that actually it can even predict the values which are outside the boundaries of the maximum minimum by defining a smooth function. So it generally be used for kind of an extrapolating in terms of the data values. The next category of, the next category of interpolation is actually the probabilistic interpolation technique, where, of course, it's also called families of the Kriging, which is actually, it's a geostatistical technique to interpolate the values from the observed, very similar to what you do in the deterministic interpolation, and it is based on the linear least square estimation. And the estimator is linear mainly because if you see here, the predicted value at the unknown location is actually the linear multiplications or linear combinations of the values at the known locations. So lambda 1 times z1 plus lambda 2 plus z2. So that means the values at the known location are given in a weight, and then their linear combination is actually estimated in the process of the probabilistic techniques. So Kriging has actually a specially correlated component, which is mainly representing the variation of the data. And more importantly, is the drift of the structure representing the trend, particularly the trend that is being actually followed. Whether the data has that means actually, unlike deterministic, probabilistic will also look into actually the variation within their data sets and see the kind of a trend that is being followed. And this trend actually can be modeled or can be considered as a known, which results in a simple or ordinary Kriging, or actually can be modeled using a simple linear equation, resulting in universal Kriging techniques. So the procedure that uses this Kriging technique actually in estimating the unknown locations, actually, first it will actually try to see how the data is being distributed. That is done using a technique or actually methodology called semi-variogram technique, where it first calculates the semi-variance, how the variance in the data is happening with respect to the distance. So knowing that, actually, then it will plot the semi-variance graph, and the semivariogram has its some characteristics which at d is equals to 0, the variance should be 0. That means the same value, if at all it's something like actually you are actually measuring the data at the same location where which is the distance between the two is 0, means your time-wise repetition is happening, the variability should be 0, right? So it's on as you go outside away from the known location. For example, when the distance is much larger, the variability in the data will be higher, but the variability will be leveled off at some locations. These are the characteristics where it has a semivariogram is represented using a nugget, generally where at d is equals to 0, the variability, if at all you see the variability in the data, then it's actually called such a nugget effect. And you also have a range and a cell. Range represents the distance at which your semivariogram is leveling off, and the variance, corresponding variance, is called the cell. So if you plot the data, how the values are being dispersed with respect to the distance, you can actually plot a semivariogram, and this semivariogram, they have different characteristics. So could be horizontal, could be actually have a linear with a nugget value, or could be non-linear with a nugget. And these semivariograms can be fitted to a different set of library of semivariograms, which are called theoretical semivariograms. So the first step is actually we first analyze the data. For example, you got the data of the COVID affected or COVID disease affected at various districts. So you get actually those data sets. Then you first actually the dispersion of the data and their values, and then you first get the experimental semivariograms. That means how the variance or the semivariogram is happening within the given data sets. So you have the measured values at two locations, XA and XA plus H, and then the variance, and actually it's actually normalized to get the semivariograms. So once you have the experimental semivariogram, which is actually characteristics of the data, then you try to compare or model with various theoretical semivariograms. You have a number of semivariograms available. For example, a spherical semivariogram, where the variance with distance is represented by this expression. You have actually Gaussian semivariogram, wherein actually the variance with distance is expressed by this, and the shape looks like this. And you have an exponential semivariogram, where actually the shape of the semivariogram, theoretical variogram, looks like this. You have a power semivariogram, where actually the variation in the data is expressed by the power of the distance multiplied with the coefficients. Or you have a nested model, where actually it has the nested are actually the segments of these combinations to represent. So eventually, these are all various families or sets of theoretical semivariograms, which are eventually compared or evaluated with an experimental semivariogram data. So the logic, or actually the principle behind this rigging technology, is actually the first thing is actually it uses expected value at an unknown location is actually the linear combinations of the known locations multiplied with the weights, and with a condition actually that the sum of all the weights is equals to 1. Actually, I'll call actually linear unbiased estimator. And the variance in the data sets, you're trying to, what eventually you're trying to do is actually the variance with respect to the difference between the theoretical to the experimental, you're trying to minimize subjected to this unbiased condition. So minimizing this variance subjected to a linear unbiased condition results in actually the Kriging solution. Sometimes when you have actually a trend associated with the data, then you can actually the model the trend using some set of polynomial coefficients that results in additional equations. So eventually what happens, a kriging technique for an unknown location, it solves actually the AX is equals to B format equation where the gamma 11, gamma 12 is actually the semi-variogram between the known data sets, and this gamma O1, gamma O2 and so on are actually the semi-variogram between the one data set and the unknown data set. And these are actually the linear weights or the trend coefficients that you are supposed to use if at all you are using a universal kriging technique. So eventually this estimating the value at the unknown location will use us this kind of a solving this system of linear equations to get the unknown locations. And the efficiency or the efficacy of this kriging can be measured or actually evaluated using some residual statistics in the cross validation using mean error, mean square error, or kriged root mean square error. So the one which is actually resulting in the close to zero mean error or minimum mean square error or close to one kriged mean square error is said to be the more optimal kriged solution. So why you need this much of texting? Mainly because all your analysis results are exclusively depending on what the continuous surface you are getting. And it is true that actually when you are have chosen a wrong rigging algorithm or when you have chosen a wrong semi-variogram to fit the data, it will eventually result in a continuous surface, but will be much different. So because your analytical results are exclusively based on the developed continuous surface, it is very essential to ensure that you are ending up with a very effective uh, cricket surface. So essentially, this is how actually the tool in GIS generally used in terms of the cross validation. What is a measured value versus what is a predicted value and what is the error. So this is how actually the semi-variogram looks like. This is the experimental semi-variogram, which is represented with all the dots. And it is actually trying to fit with some theoretical semi-variogram, which is actually a line. This theoretical semi-variogram has mathematical formulation that will be used in this one, the estimation of the surface. So I will very briefly go through a simple problem. For example, if you have the data at 5 locations, uh, the locations on an X-ray plane or at the coordinates are 1, 5, 3, 4, and so on. And the values at these locations are 100, 105, and so on. And you are supposed to estimate the value of the data at the unknown location, see which is in yellow dots. So when you are using an ordinary rigging, okay, so it simply solves actually the AX equals to B form, where actually you need to get the gamma 11, gamma 1, and so on. And this is actually the linear based additional constraint, because if you see lambda 1 plus lambda 2 plus lambda 3 and so on should be equals to 1. And 0m, because it's an ordinary rigging, no trend is considered in the data sets. So this is a linear biased condition, and this is the minimum variance condition will result in this system of linear equations. So essentially what you do, first you take all the known data sets and try to get the semi-variance. So actually how the data is varying. So what is the distance between the two and what is the variance in the data? And then you plot a graph between distance versus semi-variance. Then, of course, many times what happens, because you have a large number of data sets, you cannot deal with this many data points. So you will bin them. You will actually group them into different classes. And then from there, you can actually, this is how actually how the data is being distributed. The data in terms of the bin, where actually how the distance and variation is changing. And then you try to fit some empirical model. Here we are fitting a simple linear empirical model because actually that best fits this data, this is my theoretical semi-variogram. The dots is actually an experimental semi-variogram, and this is a theoretical semi-variogram. Once I have this theoretical semi-variogram, I can get actually the right side matrix corresponding to that theoretical semi-variogram. Or then the gamma matrix I can get, then inverse of the gamma will get. And then this gamma times lambda equals to z. And lambda is actually what is required for us, means weights associated with each data point, which is the gamma inverse times g. Gamma inverse is actually you obtain from the data, and G is actually what you obtain with the linear, the fitted estimates. And then with this gamma inverse of G will give actually the value at the unknown location, which is 1 or 2.5. So this is how actually, that means this is actually the basis how the value at the unknown location is estimated using the kriging technique. So this is actually a simple test data set has been used. This actually the data has been considered the groundwater levels at various locations, and then the data has been tried to fit various theoretical models, and then it was observed that there are two kinds of data sets. This is actually the data groundwater levels at the monitoring wells, and 1996 and 2003 data sets. And then the data is actually analyzed statistically. And then we, because actually it experiences a trend, the trend in different directions have been actually tried to fit with the different theoretical semivariegrams. And then for each data, 1996 and 2003, the best fit distribution has been actually considered. For example, spherical of the first order or spherical of the second order has been fitted best, which has resulted in the lowest mean, close to zero mean error, lowest mean square error, and close to one Kriging mean square error. And then based on this, actually, the surface has been prepared along with that, actually, the estimation variance. So you got actually the groundwater contours, both for the years in 2000 and 1996. That will help you to analyze how the groundwater gradient is changing with time and how actually we make more conclusions. So this is actually the tool that generally how you use the tool in GIS. You can actually call the geostatistical tool, and then you can go for the ordinary kriging or any other kriging. And then you actually use the prediction tool. And then you select what is the jet field or the elevation, the data field that you're actually trying to krig, and then the folder, and then you develop the cricket surface. So this is how actually you develop for the same data set, but using inverse distance or triggered setting on radial basis function, how the surfaces looks like. So it trying to say actually that different interpolation techniques will yield different continuous surfaces, but because all your results or analysis or conclusions are based on the developed continuous surface, you need to be very careful in choosing the very right or the appropriate interpolation technique to suit your data. So this actually, the profiles can be used predominantly in hydrogeology, groundwater, and environmental applications. Could be of deterministic or probabilistic in nature. And again, these are principles based on the first look the geography. It tells the data that is closer will be more alike than the things that are farther. That is the basis for giving the weight value. So these are the references, and with this, actually, I will conclude my presentation and open to the questions.
Thank you, Dr. Phanindra, for an interesting presentation. You may just look into the presentation of Dr. Phanindra. He started with the maps, the chloropeth map, the first, which has been presented by earlier speaker, Dr. Nitin Tripathi, which shows the representation of the discrete observations. What is a chloropeth map? It maps the discrete observations into a continuous surface. And the most important aspect of the geostatistics is it addresses the very important need to make what you call as the predictions of the sampled attributes, that is from the maps, at an unsampled location, from the whatever sparse or very expensive data that is available. That is the biggest strength of the geostatistical procedures. And for this, the hard data of the geostatistics has to be concentrated with using the powerful methods based on one of the tools is the stochastic processes. If I'm right, I think Phanindra can always correct me also if I'm wrong. So wonderful presentation by all these two speakers, because the focus is on data evaluation, data collection and data evaluation for operational applications of the technology. So I take wonderful thing, and we had two speakers, and if any of the there was a question to Dr. Nitin. Can you just briefly answer that particular question, Dr. Nitin, regarding the consistency of the instrumentation for data collection? I think.
Yeah. So I just read the question in the chat. I think Mr. Bhuvan want to ask this question. So these sensors are coming from different vendors, and they must be calibrated first. How much is the deviation from the standard medical instruments in the hospital? So we have also checked the thing in our AIT clinic with the system that we have, and more or less with 10% variation, signals were means readings were correct. Actually, there was not much problem. Even the in the health center, our blood pressure monitor and everything, and they were just matching quite. Um, I think they were quite correct. 10% variation was there, so that is very small error was there. So there is not much problem. Only thing is these are not accepted in the hospital. The sensor that we are using, they are not allowed in the hospital because of certain wavelengths that we are using for transmission, because there will be many equipment. But it is very good tool for the remote places like villages, for mountain areas, forest areas where the patients are there, but they cannot go to the doctors. So we can give the kit to them, and at least within 10% accuracy, the data will be available online, and the doctor can give some alert to them. So with this accuracy, I think it is very good for monitoring purpose, but certainly not for the ICU grade equipment, because medical council of any country has to first authenticate these one. So I think for remote patient monitoring, these are very useful devices which are available at low cost.
Thank you, Dr. Nitin. There is a question on, I think it is addressed to Phanindra. Is there any documentation standard about recommendation, etc., using the measurements, etc.? Phanindra, could you just throw some light on that process?
Yes, actually, first thing is actually we need to understand how the data has been distributed, point number one. And is there any trend in the data? And whether the trend need to be model or trend need to be removed before actually going for your interpolation techniques. For example, most often actually the deterministic interpolations just provide the prediction surface, but they do not have any uncertainty associated. So it mainly depends on how the data has been distributed, point number one, and also what is the additional information that is actually being need to be procured. And more importantly, cross-validation is the one which is a very beneficial tool in evaluating the strength of any interpolation technique, where actually you can actually cross-check the data at the very validation locations, and how your interpolation technique is behaving. For example, in terms of the mean error or mean square error or Pilgrim mean square error. So yes, there is you need to actually validate the data prior to apply a specific method.
Thank you, Phanindra. I also thank Dr. Gabriel for identifying one of the important aspects of this question to Phanindra, and earlier Siddharth Bhuyan from asking a question on what are the consistency, validation of the instrumentation, etc. Actually, Siddharth Bhuyan is from Northeast Space Application Center, and ISRO is one of the, just for information of our other non-Indian person, I would like to bring NGSAC is one of the premier research remote sensing organizations in the country under the ISRO. It is northeastern part of the country, located at Shillong in Meghalaya state. So I thank both the speakers and as well as people who created some discussion. And I welcome much more discussion in future meetings. And And if any questions are needed, Dr. Nitin and Dr. Phanindra will be glad to answer if you send mails to any one of us. Thank you for this thing. And before I tell formal vote of thanks, I request Dr. Lauren to give his comments, remarks.
I think Dr. Lauren commented through chat and thanked all the invited speakers. I'm not sure if he's still here.
Okay, then let me take up that issue of. I specifically thank Dr. Nitin Tripathi and Dr. Phanindra for bringing out some of the important topics penetrating through the geospatial technology by integrating with the other issues of both the science, engineering, and technology aspect in some of the instrumentation. For the wonderful presentation, I welcome the participants to make use of these ideas that are given and take them forward. And I also thank our Dr. Lakshmi Thapa, who is an energetic president of Student Consortium, who is always available for any support, any help, right from the morning or evening or later part of the day. And Dr. Marcus, the most dynamic webmaster. Both of them are the main people who are behind this particular show, along with the speakers who have made this show, this webinar, a great event, which we will continue for the sake of continuity, we want to maintain every month on 12th, unless there is some problem on the commission. It's not a rule, but we prefer to conduct the event every month on 12th. If it is the speakers are from Western Hemisphere, it will be 8 a.m. of the Pacific time. If the speakers are in the Eastern Hemisphere, it will be 8 a.m. of the GMT. That is what exactly we try to standardize these issues. And I thank everyone who has made this, participated in this particular program. And we look forward for greater, more and more events, more and more inputs from each one of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Lauren.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
And Dr. Phanindra.
Thank you, sir.
Much,
thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you. I'm going to end the webinar now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lakshmi.
Bye, everyone.